Hello, today we have John Passalacqua, the CEO and Director of First Phosphate, trading on the OTCQX under the ticker FRSPF, and it also has American Depositary Receipt, also trading on the OTCQX under the ticker FPHOY. John, we've been watching something unfold over the past few days that's shaking up the entire LFP battery industry, and we want to talk about it with you today. On May 4th, Avenir Minerals, a subsidiary of Agnico Eagle Mines, the world's second largest gold producer, announced an all-cash transaction for more than $93 million to acquire Fox River Resources. Tell us about it.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, I'm not the company. I'm in the space, right? First Phosphate is an igneous phosphate producer. So there are three igneous phosphate projects in North America. The one for Fox River is in Ontario. That's an igneous carbonatite. It's a little bit different than the anorthosites. And then there are two anorthosites in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. First Phosphate has the one that's closest to the port. First Phosphate's got the larger market cap of the two companies that are remaining. But that's it. You just have, after that one, you've got two companies remaining in igneous phosphate that are independent in North America. And when you look at the cathode of the LFP battery, it's 60% phosphate. That's only 4% lithium. And you wonder, what's going on here? Why does Agnico Eagle make such a big departure from the gold space? They're the second largest producer of gold in the world. Why are they coming into igneous phosphate? And some say, well, it's either erratic, they don't know what they're doing, or they might be looking at igneous phosphate as the new gold of the energy transition.
Okay, John, to recap here, Agnico Eagle Mines is entering the phosphate space through Avenir. Now, tell us more about this. This is a major gold producer, as you just said, and it's diversifying into battery-related materials. What do you think this all means? What are they trying to tell investors?
Yeah, so it's very perplexing because Avenir Minerals was started by Agnico Eagle just in October of last year. They were given, from my understanding, a budget of $80 million, and they made a few small acquisitions of 5-10% of companies in base metals and precious metals. But then here they come out and they buy 100% interest in a igneous phosphate producer for $94 million. And why would they do that unless they're planning to go out and to build out the mine, I would think, which is going to entail another, billion or two of capex. So it's really interesting. It's a big departure from gold. Gold, there's smaller veins. And, you're talking phosphate, you're talking, part of it for them is it's a carbonatite. So part of it will have to stay in agriculture. They might try to hit a segment of the LFP battery industry with it, but it's a big departure in terms of the way you mine for gold and what you have to do with phosphate. So very, very, very interesting what's going on here. I don't think any of us can really know unless you spoke to the company or unless we kind of just see how the strategy plays out here over the coming months.
Now, unlike many phosphate developers, First Phosphate is focused on high purity igneous phosphate, specifically for the LFP battery market. John, how does that specialization differentiate you from projects like Martison, which target both fertilizer and industrial markets?
Yeah, so we've always seen that as problematic. Not to speak for other companies, but we've seen that as problematic of being in fertilizer and being in the LFP battery space. We made a conscious decision to be 100% solely, fully focused on the LFP battery sector, phosphate for the LFP battery sector. And because of that, we chose the igneous anorthosite rocks. So we did not go into the igneous carbonatites, such as the Martison property at Fox River, even though it has high purity. We believe that we have a better purity in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, so that our full 100% focus can be on LFP battery. So while it's a very good deposit and it's got good grades for fertilizer and perhaps grades for LFP battery, we chose to make a decision to stick to the LFP battery, to stick to the igneous anorthosite in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, and also not to touch any sedimentary deposits. So we wouldn't touch sedimentary and we wouldn't touch igneous carbonatites. We stick true to igneous anorthosites for their purity.
Now, LFP batteries dominate global battery production, John, and phosphate can compose up to 60% of the cathode material by mass. Now, how critical is securing a domestic phosphate supply to the future of North American energy infrastructure?
Yeah, it's critical. It's everything. I mean, Benchmark Minerals has got phosphate. High purity phosphate is the second most important mineral after copper for the energy transition. It's ahead of lithium. It's ahead of cobalt, manganese, nickel, rare earths, graphite. So this is incredibly important for North America. And the problem is that with the current grades of phosphate, the sedimentary phosphates, it's not possible to make a lot of purified phosphoric acid. The purity just isn't there. So with the igneous anorthosite, we can make a lot of high purity phosphoric acid for the battery. Like I said before, without having to enter the fertilizer market, we can be specifically and 100% focused on delivering exactly that, the battery grade phosphate that's required for North American energy independence and for the whole onshoring of this LFP battery supply chain, which is critical. It's critical to national defense. It's critical to energy. It's critical to sovereignty.
Your company is pursuing a vertically integrated model from mining through downstream LFP materials. How does that strategy position you differently versus single asset developers that may ultimately need partners or acquirers to move forward?
Yeah, very great question. So, since the beginning, we've always been dedicated, Craig, towards, the mine to market model of basically onshoring the LFP battery supply chain. We know that that was a problem for governments. That's a problem for society. It's something that, is critical to our national security, to our sovereignty. So we've been going all the way downstream, and we've developed it together with partners, right? Nobody can do anything on their own, but we developed solid partnerships, solid technology agreements that allows us to basically, start from the very top of the chain, which is the igneous phosphate rock in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, and to purify that into very pure phosphate concentrate, phosphoric acid, iron phosphate precursor, LFP cathode active material, which then goes into the guts of these batteries. The LFP batteries. These are the first LFP batteries produced in North America using North American critical minerals, of which are phosphate, which First Phosphate is proud to have been involved in.
Final question, John. What is the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in First Phosphate right now?
Yeah, so it's all about LFP batteries, right? Lithium iron phosphate batteries are now close to 80% of the batteries produced on planet Earth. We know that there's 150 companies out there in the lithium space that you can buy out on major markets. There's a lot of iron companies out there, but in terms of phosphate companies specifically and uniquely focused just on electrification, just on the LFP battery, that's First Phosphate. So I said, don't forget the P in First Phosphate. It shouldn't really be LFP. It should be PFL because phosphate is 60% of that cathode.
Interesting way of putting it, John. Thanks for the update.
Thank you so much.